Hello everyone. I wanted to thank you first for the people who already like the live. It does help for YouTube to promote the live more, so really appreciate it. Now today we're gonna do some coding challenges. If you have any question about what I'm doing or any suggestions, you can always put them in the chat and I will monitor the chat so I can answer any questions or suggestions. I think today what we are going to do, we are going to do some challenges from Codewars. And like I said in the past lives, we are starting with more easy ones at the beginning. I'm gonna do some 7 Caillou ones today. And yeah, like I mentioned before, if you have any questions, you can ask them in the chat. So I'm gonna do this one. I had a look. I had a look before, a little bit earlier, and I thought it was interesting. So basically, what they're saying, given a position of a knight on the standard chessboard, find the number of different moves the knight can perform. The knight can move to a square that is 2 squares horizontally and 1 square vertically, or 2 squares vertically and 1 square horizontally. So for the people who don't play chess, I play chess. I thank you very much for the like, much appreciated. Basically, the horsey, the knight moves in like an L way. It kind of makes the letter L, either like that or like that or like that, and so on. So basically, they will give us a position like A1 or A5 or D4, and from that position we have to see how many different moves the knight could do, because for example, if the knight is here, it could only make the moves from here to here and from here to here, because it's basically in a position where it's not optimal. So basically they're gonna give us a string with a position on the table, and we're gonna have to find how many different moves it can perform. Thank you very much, Hans. Hello, Dave. You're in for a ride. Um, which course are you following on Udemy? Wow, 7 viewers. I'm surprised. So yeah, basically, uh, what I'm going to do is basically see what the pattern is. Let me put this so I can see both my editor and what we're going to do, we're going to copy these starting functions that they give us. So basically here they give us the cell in the function, and what I want to do is basically I want to translate both I want to translate the letter as well to a position, because this one is going to be like a 1, this is going to be like a 2, and so on. So I want to translate this to a position on the table as well, so I can know exactly where on the table is, because I'm going to have to work with numbers. It's going to be easier than working with the letters. So I'm basically gonna make a string which I'm going to call uh, const letters to numbers. I'm just calling it like that, but basically here what I'm gonna store is I'm gonna store the letters A, B, C, D, F, G, H, so until H. And basically here when I'm getting the cell, I want to say const letter equals to cell of 0, because the cell is going to be something like that, A1, and if I access a cell of 0, I'm going to get the letter, right? Let's see if they give us, yeah, they give us a lowercase letter. So basically I'm going to put the letter in there, and then to find the number that corresponds to the letter, I want to access this of letter but because the indexes in strings and arrays start from 0, I want to add 1 to it, because I don't want it a to be 0, because if I actually I'm gonna have to transform this to an array and find the index of that letter. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say const position of letter equals 2, and what I'm going to do, I'm going to use on this string that I made. Actually, instead of making that, I'm just not gonna make this variable, and I'm gonna use this string, but I'm going to spread it. So basically, if you use the spread operator on a string, it's gonna make an array. So when I use the spread operator on this, what's gonna make of this is gonna make an array where you have the letters A, B, and C and so on until H, right? So I'm basically just spreading the letters as a particular element, and I'm going to say const position of letter is this array which has all the letter, and I want to find I want to find the index of this letter, right? So I'm saying index of letter. Thank you very much for the like, much appreciated. And then I want to add 1, because I don't want A to have a 0, I want it to have 1, right? So I want to say here +1, right? I am going to copy this in here in Visual Studio Code, right? So this is what I'm doing. So now I have and then I'm going to say const number, which is the other number, is going to be cell of 1, because if you have something like A1, you want to access the second one for the number, right? So now we have the position of the letter and the number, which we have both of the numbers now, and now we have to think about how how we would find where it can move. So basically, the way it moves is it has a few patterns. So one of the pattern is, if the position is here, this position would be like +1 on the number, right? So you would have, we get the number first, so you would be +1 on the number, right? And it would be -2 on the letter, right? Then you have this, which is +2 on the numbers. Wait, yeah, +2 on the numbers, and then actually this is, so this is +1, yeah, +1 and -2, and then we have +2 and just -1, right? Now for these ones, we have +2 on the number again, but then we have +1 on the letter, as you can see, right? And then we have +1 for this and +2 for the letter. We're gonna find the pattern within all of this. Thank you very much for the like. Then we have here we have a -1, right, on the number, and -1 on the letter. Then we have -2 on the number. So wait, -2 on the number, and here is -2 on the letter, actually, if you look then. And then you have -2 on the number and -1 on the letter. Do correct me if anything is wrong. Tone say, what exactly are you not understanding? Oh, what's going on here? And then the last one would be, let's look on here. Why is this? Okay. And then the last one would be on on the number is -2 because we're going down 2, right? So we have -2, and then is 1, adding 1 on the letter, right? And then you have -1 on the number and adding 2 on the letter. So let's see what the patterns are. We have +1, +2. Let's put all these in the same kind of pattern. I'm gonna put this here so it's the same. I'm gonna put now again we have -1, -2, -2, -1, -1, 2, and -2, 1. So these are some pattern. We have +1, +2, +1, +2. So first of all, we have first 1 and 2 for 1 and 2 for the number 4 times, and then you have -2, -1, and 2 and 1. So basically we're repeating 1 and 2 for the number 2 times, and then 1 time is positive and 1 is negative. But what I want to do is I think this makes more sense to have them like that. So what I'm doing basically, I'm copying to have all the ones in. I think it makes more sense to have all the ones in one thing, right? So I think this would help more. We have -1, -2, and we're putting this as well. Okay, and let's put this together. I'm just trying to find a pattern that's going to be easier to work with. Okay, so we have this +2, -2, and 1. Okay, so basically now we have a pattern. We first have 1, 1, and then -2 + 2, and -2 + 2. And this is the same pattern like we have here. So basically, kind of we have this pattern first, and then we have these numbers that we have here, but rotated. As you can see, if I move this, what we have here, -2 and -1. You see, -2 we have here, -2 for example, and -1 we have here as well, but it's rotated. And here -2 and 1, we have it here and here. So basically we have this pattern once for the number and once for the letter, and then we basically change the numbers. So I can delete this, I can keep just this pattern, and let's put this. Okay, let me store this like this. I'm going to say const numbers to add. I know this is probably not the best solution, but I'm going to go with my instinct, and I'm going to say, as you can see, we have 1, 1, 1, 1, and then we have -1 and -1, and then I'm going to say const numbers to add 2 equals to -2 + 2, which is just 2, and then we have again -2 and 2, but here's numbers to add 2. And then I'm going to create a counter which I'm counting all the positions in which I can move, right? So basically I'm going to say const, well, I'm going to say let, because this will need to be modified, and it starts from 0 because we're saying at the beginning, okay, well, I'm starting from the position, I'm starting from a counter of 0, and then I'm counting how many of the moves are possible. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to say for. I'm going to create I'm going to use a for loop because I could say a for each, but because there might be people newer to JavaScript who only know for loops, I'm going to use a for loop. So I'm going to say for let I equal 0, I is less than numbers to add 1, numbers to add 1 length, and I'm going to say I plus plus. I'm going to say, basically what I'm going to say if, and I'm going to say if number, right? If number plus numbers to add of I, yeah, so basically numbers to add of I is less than or equal to 8, because they shouldn't be less than or equal to 8, and also they shouldn't be well, is less than equal to 8, and also they have to be higher than 0. So what I'm going to say is I'm going to say a const value of y, which is basically the position on the y-axis for a particular position. So I'm going to say this one is number, which is this, right? Plus numbers to add of this, and then I'm going to say if this value is less than or equal to 8, and also this value is higher than or equal to 1, because it has to be higher or equal to 1, and also I have to have the value of x, which the value of x is going to be position of letter, because this we're tracking the letter, right, for the new position, and here numbers to add 2 of I, right? And also this one has to be the same. It has to be so basically I'm saying also the same for these things, right? It has to be less than or equal to 8 and higher than or equal to 1. And if all of this is true, then I'm increasing the counter plus plus. And then this basically what we did just checked for 4 positions, and now we have to kind of switch these things. So basically I need to make the same loop again. This is not the best solution, but yeah. So here I'm going to do the same thing again, but this time the value of y is gonna be numbers of add 2 of I, and here numbers of add 1 of I. And again I'm increasing the counter if these are true, right? So now at the end I'm returning the counter. Of course we can improve on this, but let's check this solution first. What's up, bro? How are you? I know this is like a super long solution, but this should be working. Expected 0 to equal 2. Okay, let me see where there might be a mistake. What is going on here? Value of unknown word. Now this is not a problem. Where am I? If value of I is less than or equal to 8 and value of y is higher than equal to 1 and value of x, then counter plus plus. Let's put some console logs in here. Let me check. Let me call the function here chess knight, and let's call it with a1, and let's console log the answered and see what exactly is going on, because we probably messing up at some point. So let's code a1 is not, oh, this should be a string. Okay, and we're getting 0. Let's see what happens here. Let's console log here the number and the position of letter. Console log number and position of letter. Let's see if we are correct at this point. Okay, this is correct. Why am I okay, I'm getting a 0 there. Okay, so here is correct because a is position 1 and 1. So what's going on here? We're saying value of x and value of y is what is going on? Why is this never true? Hello, bro. For let I numbers to add one length I plus plus. Yeah, I'm trying to understand why is this is never happening. Console log so this is never true. For what reason? The value of I is no. So I think this I think this is my is it though? What is going on here? Let me put these values here. Console log, and I'm going to put value of y and value of x. What? Oh, I see. Okay, so the problem here was because when we're saying that this number is cell of 1, actually because a1, like the string that we're given is a string, and I'm saying that the number is cell of 1, it takes that as a string. So I have to make this a number. So I'm going to use the number function, because what was happening, it was keeping as a string, so it was keeping like this, and then when I was adding a 1 to it, it was becoming a string like 11, and that's not what we want. We want to add them. So that's where the mistake was creeping in. That was a weird one, but that's why it helps to console log to see what's happening. So I'm seeing here 11, and I'm like, how did he get to 11? So yeah, that was the mistake. So basically here I'm transforming it in a number, and here it's already a number, so we don't have to do nothing for this one, because when we're finding index of, that's already a number, and we're just adding 1. So now if we're saying this, then we get, actually I can take this console log off here, and because I gave it the position a1, which would be a1 would be here, from here it can move on into position, and as you can see, if I console log here, this function call, I'm getting 2. If I give it this, which is d5, I should get 8, right? So yeah, I mean, it's a bit long, but it works. We can update it a little bit if we want to be shorter. We can think of all right. So this works. All right, let's see if we can just write a cleverer solution to basically I want to not do this for loop twice. I want to basically okay, so what I can do, I think, is well, I could put this two element in so both these two array, I can put them into an array const numbers to add. I could make an array of arrays, right? So I could put this array in here. I wonder if it's gonna work like that, but we're trying to come up with something, so I'm just gonna throw stuff at it. So I'm going to say this. I'm going to take this off from here, and then I'm going to say how should I say it here? You can throw any ideas if you have any ideas in the chat to make this more. All right. I wonder if oh well, we solved it. I don't know. I don't want to think too much at this hour, but Yeah, this is obviously long, and in production I would spend some time like working on making a shorter solution, but sometimes longer code is easier to understand. So sometimes you have to also choose between making something that's too clever, like that's what it happens in a live code base. You don't want to write code that's too clever, because then it can become too hard to understand if you have like all these things combining and somebody has to decipher it. Because it can seem, while you come up with a clever solution, it can seem to you, oh, this is genius, but then it's much harder to understand if somebody comes and look at your code and they don't know. um, um, yeah, basically there, why I use the array is basically because I'm using the array length. In here I could have just said, so if I'm going back to what I had before, here I didn't have to say numbers to add one length. I could have put numbers to add two length, because both of them are four. So this doesn't matter, because here we're just making a for loop that gives us the numbers from 0 to 3, because it says less than the length, which is 4. So we go from 0 to 3. So we're basically able to access this element. But because we know these lengths are always going to be 4, we can say here less than 4. So we don't have to really use the length. We could say 4 and that would work, you know. And Daniel Telmoshel, yeah, I could use for each function as well, but kind of the same thing like here. And obviously I think with for each as well I could come up with something clever, so I don't have to write two for loops. Oh, I wonder though here, I don't really have to go through these two loops, because I could do the same in I could do the same in one loop. So I can move this thing here. Um, I could move this in the first loop, but give it another, like maybe, obviously this is still quite long, but we'll do this. Um, and then here basically we're kind of doing something long, so instead of this we could say, so basically now we can get rid of this for loop, and instead of saying all this by one, if this is less than l, this is less than s, this is less than s, this is less than s, right, we could basically make an array with all these values. So I can put these values, because these values have some values. First value of y1 would be this plus numbers to add I, uh, 1 of I, and we would get, and here is different. Here we use numbers 2 of I, because here we want to have the x from this one, while in this one, well, you know what I mean, because we explained before. So here, instead of saying all these things one by one, we could basically put these values, which these variables contain this value, we could put them all in an array like this. We could say we have these values in here, right? And here I'm going to, what's going on, something became back here, value of x1, value of y2, and value of x2. Yeah, so here is value of y1, value of x1, value of i2, and value of x2. So basically I'm putting all these values in an array, and then I'm saying I'm taking this if from here because I don't need it, and then I say for each. So for each of these, and I'm saying for each value, and here I have a function, and I'm saying here, because I'm getting all these values one by one in here, I'm saying if value is higher than or equal to 1 and value. So basically I'm checking this for all of these things, right? Actually, this is not gonna work because both of these have to be true. um, hmm. uh, yeah, so basically I could make like an array of arrays, and these values, I would say here values, but this is a bit weird. This is where it gets weird. But anyway, we can say values, if values of 0, if values of 0 is higher than 1 and values of 1 is higher than 1, higher than or equal to 1, and values of 0 is less than or equal to 8, and then values of 1 is less than or equal to 8, then we're increasing the counter. Because basically what's happening this got about the same as long. Basically what's happening here, we have an array with the first check that we have to do, and then we have the other array, and we're, but I don't know, this basically got to the same length as before, so it's kind of a matter of how you want to do it. All right, let's skip to the next one because we solved this one. We know how we solve. We can optimize more if we wanted, but what the what was the issue was to basically understand the problem, and then you can find the solution. So let's go to the next challenge. I think this one should be an easier one. So basically here we are given an array and a limit value. So basically a limit value, and we have to check that all the values in the array are below or equal to the limit value. If they are, return true, else return false. So let's go to train. I'm going to copy this, and this one is quite easy. There's nothing complicated about it. Basically here you have the array, and here you have the limit, and what you want to do is check that all the elements are higher than or equal to the limit. So we could either say for let I equal 0, I is less than a length, and I plus plus, and what you want to do is say if a of I is higher than the limit, then return false. And if you go through all this loop, through all the elements, and it hasn't returned false yet, then you're returning true. And if you're testing this, you can see that it works. Right? You can attempt it and it works. But this can be easily done by using a method on the array, which basically you can check that every element from if every element from that array passes a function logic, like passes a check. So basically you can say return, and you're gonna get the array and run on it the every method, which is a method on arrays that checks that if all the elements from the array pass that logic, that kind of condition. And you say return and this method returns true or false. And you say return every, and you say every element, and the element should be less than or equal to the limit. So basically you're returning the result of this, which is going to be either true or false. And if you didn't already give a like to the live and you're enjoying it, I would appreciate one, as it helps you to promote it more. All right, let's go to another one. Yeah, we could also have used array for each to do this, but basically the best method was to basically use every, which kind of check against a logic. So here they say you will be given an array of objects, and they say something about PHP, which we don't care, representing data about developers who have signed up to attend the next coding meetup that you are organizing. Your task is to return either true if all developers in the list code in the same language, or false otherwise. For example, given the following input array, this one, thank you very much for the like, much appreciated. So given an array like this, it should return true because all the developers use the same language, which is JavaScript, right? So we're going to say train, and the list is an array. And what we want to do is we're going to do exactly the same thing that we did in the, we can use exactly the same function that we used before, the same method. And we're going to say return list, and we want to say that every what are they, every developer, we can say developer, because in these callback functions that you pass to methods, you can give to these parameters that you use, you can give them any name, but the name that you give them, that's how you're going to use them in the function. And you want to say for each developer, so you say list every developer, and then you say developer language equals to oh, I think this might be a different, because you don't know the language. But what you can say is you don't know the language, but you can access it from the first element, because the first element of the list is list of 0. So you can get the so this is the first developer in the list of 0 will return you the first developer in the list, and you can access the language that that developer is using by saying list of 0 language, right? So we can get a language and then check that every developer is using that language, right? Because if all developers use that language, then so basically if not all developers use the language that the first developer uses, then it means they don't all use the same language. So we can say that we have to check that every developer uses this language, right? So let's copy this here, test it, and attempt it. All right, let's go further and solve some more things. Okay, so let's see what I say here. Now basically some of these problems where they saying higher order function series, they're basically challenges that test your knowledge of using a higher order function like methods like for each, every, and so on. So here they say you will be given an array of objects representing data about developers who have signed up, the same thing. Given the following input array, something like this, write a function that when executed as find admin list1 in JavaScript returns only the JavaScript developers who are GitHub admins. Okay, so basically if you're given so you're given a list and you're given a programming language and you have to return only the developers that use that language, but also they are GitHub admins, and you can see that this is represented in the developer by having yes for the GitHub or the yes value for the GitHub admin property in the object. So what we have to do is basically, I'm going to copy this function here, and what you want to do is here we're using the filter method, and I'm not going to explain the filter method in detail here, but I do have a video on my channel about the filter method which is pretty in detail. So if you don't know how to use it, you can watch that video. So here what we want to say is return. When you want to return something from a function, you have to use return, otherwise it won't return nothing. You will just do stuff but not return nothing. And you want to say return list, and you want to filter it because you want to return just part of it. So you say return list filter, you get the developer, and here you have to check that the developer language, right, you access the developer language and it should be equal to the language that is passed, right? So we're returning developer language equal lang, and then we say and we want to say this, and developer GitHub admin, right, and developer GitHub admin equals to yes. So we're basically filtering this list so that we're only returning the developers that have the language as the language that we pass, and they are GitHub admins. So I'm gonna copy this here, test and attempt. Okay. Okay, another higher order function. Let's see what this one is about. Here they say you will be given an array representing data about developers. Same thing. Your task is to return an object which includes the count of food options selected by the developers on the meetup sign up form. So you have to return an object which includes the count of food options selected by the developer on the meetup sign up form. For example, given the following input array. So basically we're given an array like this, and then we have to return an object where you got vegetarian 2s because 2 have chosen vegetarian as the meal, standard 1 and vegan 1, right? The order of meals count in the object does not matter, so this does not matter. The count value should be a valid number. The input array will always be valid and formatted as in the example above. There are 5 possible meal options, and the string representing the selected meal option will always be formatted in the same way as follows. Now for the way I will solve it, this is not gonna matter really too much. I'm going to use the reduce method, which is an array method which I like a lot because you can do so many things with it. And again, I will not explain it in detail here. I actually have a series of 4 videos that explain it in detail from basic to advanced. So if you want to learn this awesome method, you should really check it out. So basically what I have to do is go to this array and basically get the count for all the types of meal that were selected. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the reduce method on the list, and I'm going to say list return list, and I'm going to reduce this list to an object, because you can use the reduce method to reduce an array to either a number, an array, a string, or an object, and so on, right? So here I'm going to say return list reduce, and I'm going to use the parameters accumulator and value, and the accumulator is what you're accumulating, and the value is the current value from the array, because we're going to all the values from the array one by one, and we're using them to change the accumulator somehow. So here this is a function, right? And here this reduce method takes a function, the callback function, and takes the second parameter, which is the starting value of the accumulator. And because I'm accumulating to an object, this value will be an empty object at the start, because I'm starting with an empty object. Now at the end of this function, you always have to return the accumulator after you do something to it, because when you have the first element from the array, and then here you're doing something to the accumulator, and then you return it, when you're on the next iteration of this method, because it's going to all element one by one, when you're on the second element of the array, the value of the accumulator at that point is going to be the value that you return here. So you have to remember to return the accumulator. And what you want to do here, you want to say accumulator of, you want to say you want to basically put at that property, which is like, for example, a vegetarian. You want to see if it exists, and if it exists, you add 1 to it. If the current developer also has it, so you add 1 to it. Otherwise, you give it the value of 1, right? So what you want to do is you want to say accumulator of value, which is the developer, the current developer. Let's say here developer instead of value. And you want to say accumulator of developer meal, which is basically something like this. And what you want to say is this will be equal to accumulator of developer meal if it exists. If this doesn't exist, this will be undefined. So if this is undefined, you want to put this as 0, right? So basically you're accessing whatever value it has at the moment. If there is no value for it because you haven't added that property yet, then you're going to give it, you're going to start with 0. Otherwise you're starting with the value that it has at the moment, and then you add 1 to it. So basically you're saying to this property, I give it the value that it has at the moment, or if it doesn't have any value, 0. So either the value that it has at the moment or 0 plus 1, right? So what's happening is, if we didn't add this property yet, because we haven't encountered it on any developer, then this is going to be 0, and plus 1 is going to be 1. So at this point, we're going to create the first time the property, and it's going to be having the value of 1. If we encounter another developer that has the same type of meal, then at that point that property is going to exist, for example, with the value of 1, because we already encountered a developer, and we're going to give plus 1. So then it's going to become 2, and so on. So that's how we're basically creating the properties of all this meal. We're creating these properties in the object, and then we're increasing the value every time we find a new developer that has that type of meal, right? And after we do this, we return the accumulator, and this should be it. This is very simple, as you can see, if you know how to use reduce. So let's test it and attempt it. All right, let's submit, and let me check if anybody said nothing. Yeah, nobody said anything. Let's binary addition. I think this one I might have solved it on the channel already. Let's go a little bit down and get one at random. Maybe this one, sort arrays. Let's see what this one is about. So here it says just a simple sorting usage. Create a function that returns the elements of the input array list in a sorted manner. Okay, but what array is this? Because it can be of letters or strings. So this one is going to be of names. Basically, we're going to get here an array of names and we have to sort it, and I assume we have to sort it alphabetically. Now to sort it, you can use the method sort. This is going to be an array. You can use the method sort on it, but to the sort method you have to posit a callback function that decides how that sort method is going to work. Now if you have an array of numbers and you want to order them in ascending order, you have to do, let's say this was numbers and you would get an array of numbers and you have to order them in an ascending manner. What you want to say is return numbers, and you use the sort method on it, and the sort method you give it a callback function like this. You get an a and b, which is kind of getting one element and then the next element, and you want to return a minus b. And I'm not going to try to explain exactly how this works, but you have to kind of know this. Like, I mean, you're gonna get used to them when you're working with JavaScript. When you say a minus b, it should be in ascending order, I think, or the other way around, b minus a. And then if you want in descending order, then you're having b minus a, right? Now because this will be names in these functions, this works differently because these are some strings and they work differently the way you sort them. Names here. Here what you would say a local compare b, and again I'm not going to try to explain how this works, but basically, yeah, if you're saying something like this, if I close this for a while and clear this and say animal and then local compare, and I'm local compare with brownie maybe, and I'm console logging this, and then I'm executing, you can see that you get -1, right? So what's happening, the thing is, if this callback functions returns -1, then the two elements will change places, right? And this is how it works. If because actually the a would be when you get an array like this and it gets the element 1 2 3, kind of the a is actually the next element and the b is the element before. It's kind of weird how the sort method works, but you'll get used to how to use it. And if you're trying a local compare b and it doesn't work, then you can just change places depending on how you want them to be, alphabetically or the reverse alphabet. So here I'm just going to say this, and I'm going to copy, and let's test it. And it says numbers is not defined. Okay, because here I have to actually use the names we were kind of playing before, so I have to put back names. So let's test it and let's attempt it. Okay, why doesn't this work? Sort me of this expected array 4 to deeply equal array 4. What is going on here? Some of this doesn't work. What if I say just sort? Is this gonna work? Maybe they have some other weird. Okay, they have some other weird thing for this one. I'm not sure. So this time you can just use sort, but usually what you do, you say a local compare b. I'm not sure why this works like this. All right, I think this is where I'm going to stop today. If you watched at some point and you didn't give a like already, I would appreciate one, and I should be doing another one in a few days. Hope you enjoyed this one, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye for now.